Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this Monday's Wealth Creation Show. Now, today's show is titled Succeed or Die Trying. This is going to be a good one, Jim, and I think when people say, obviously, they use the term succeed or die trying, I think people automatically think of this like relentless, this idea of relentless pursuit. And I think it's good to realise that it's more about like a mindset of acknowledging challenges and refusing to be deterred by challenges. I think it's really important to embrace that failure and that comes along with challenges and things as more of a stepping stone, more than an obstacle in your journey to success and achieving your goals. A lot of people look at failure and take it as quite a big blow and a really big setback to them. But you should use it as an opportunity to learn and use it, like as we say, as a stepping stone. This is exactly why we do this, because we talk about experience and things that have or past that have already been trodden, to try and help people not make mistakes and use that time and energy making mistakes and learn from other people like yourself.
I'm just like Monte Carlo bus, succeed or die trying.
I've actually got that.
I'm taking it literally, and I'll tell you what, this morning was like that exactly. I knocked out the park yesterday on the spin bike, and stupidly. Yeah. It's a long time since I've been on a bike, so I thought I'm going to start training inside. I've got a spin bike and I'm working on it, but I stupidly hit the wrong program, and it was like 7 and 8 resistance, going hell for leather out the saddle, pushing against it. Now, let's be honest, 3 and 4 and 5 is where you're supposed to start, and I'm up at 7 and 8 and doing it in that sort of level in terms of that. And I tell you what, it wasn't great, but I'd committed to it, so I was doing it. And I was getting on with it, and I thought half an hour is not going to bother me. I got up at 4:30 this morning. Yeah, I did get up at 4:30, and I tell you what, I was exhausted. I was literally exhausted. Now, any other time before this, I would have known straight away that to hell with it, I'll just go for it, and I'll just go out running for 5 miles. That's essentially what I was going to be doing at 5 o'clock in the morning, out running it for 5 miles. And I had a massive weight on my head. Now, I don't know if anybody's ever had that. It's like a massive pressure and a weight on my head, and it feels like stress. But in actual fact, it was actually, Jim, you need to go back to sleep. It's like, this is not going to be healthy for you at all. You can go out and do this and prove to everybody, it's all about keeping going and all the rest of it. It's like all the rest of it. But you're going to pay the price for this later on. So I went back to my bed for 2 hours, and I'm right as rain. I'm right as rain. It's like, oh my God. It's like, does that not tell you then about sharpening the saw and taking time out to sharpen your axe?
Yeah.
But before before understanding, Richard, before reading all the books and learning from the right people and the right podcast and all the rest of it, it was. I would never have thought to do that, but now it's like, whoa, wait a minute. Just don't push yourself too much. It's like you're now down to training 5 times a week. So I'm twice on the spin bike. I'm twice out running and 5 miles minimum each time. And then I'm also a mile in the pool at least every week as well. And I've got 2 rest days at this point in time. And I'm thinking to myself, in my mind now is, do you think I'll be able to run the Everest Marathon again? And it's like, what? That's in my mind. Do you think you'll ever run the Everest Marathon? And then the next thing in my mind is, do you think I can go back to an ultra run as well? Because it wasn't in my knees anymore. It was just a muscle thing. And see what I mean about me trying to push myself. Before I've even got to 5 mile and 6, I'm not even got to 10K yet. And I'm thinking about, and I've not even got to my first triathlon to get started yet. And then I'm thinking about, I wonder if I could get the Everest Marathon in. That's crazy.
Which would take a lot. But then I suppose, like you say, you are kind of the Monte Carlo or bust attitude. But then you need to watch, like you say, because you could really burn yourself out quite quickly.
That could easily happen. You could see that if you just push through what I did this morning and just ignored your body telling you and your mind telling you. It's like, whoa, wait a minute, you've got to take it easy at this point in time. That 2-hour relaxation, or just falling asleep for a couple of hours, actually made the world of difference. and I've woken up again with a totally different mindset and frame of mind, and totally different inside. So I am essentially going to go to do a 10K at the back of this, but because I need to get that in.
Okay. I mean that's a lot of work. You do put a lot of hard work into what you do, Jim, and that's obviously your own personal and physical self, and then obviously your job and your what you do with your buy-to-let and things like that. So there's a lot of work that goes into all that. And some people might look and think, oh, because there's a lot of people out there that seem to have everything kind of figured out, and it's almost like they've handed everything to them, and they have all the answers being provided to them. But I mean, is that really the case? I mean, when people look for the outside, I don't think people appreciate how much work and effort and things goes into what successful people do to get to where they are.
Yeah. Well, look at Thierry Henry, which is the footballer. Now, he was a very successful footballer, but you know he was actually depressed from a young age, and he was constantly depressed. And he was in absolute tears, he says, as an adult, when he realised what had affected him was how effectively his father had hijacked his life as a young child and actually moulded and shaped him into this world-class footballer. Now, he's not saying that that's, I hate the fact that he did that to me. What he's saying is the fact that he's still to contend with his child in him about the fact that to overcome what has happened in his life, because he'll never get his youth back again. So this, and see how Thierry Henry, and you would think, what have you got to complain about? It's kind of like that. But his father, basically molded and shaped him and got him to the point of, effectively, you're going to succeed or die trying.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think maybe like when you hear people refer to successful people like, oh, they had it all handed to them and all the rest of it. Do you know, is it maybe just a bit of like the green eye monster type thing?
Yeah, most people, and I will say most people because it does happen, and I've done it in the past, and I know I've done it in the past. Look at other people and they look for excuses to downplay their success, and because it doesn't make them feel good about the fact that they worked hard and possibly I didn't work as hard as they did. So their success was just a matter of luck.
Yeah. But then people can work really, really hard, but maybe not work as smart as they should as well, and their approach to things and how they apply themselves. And there's the proper ways or the better ways to do that, that take less time and energy, but still get the same or even better result.
Yeah, definitely. Just for the advent of the TikTokers, because there's been something wrong with TikTok going live, and we've managed to get on just now. We're talking about succeed or die trying. This encapsulates the idea of the relentless pursuit of a mindset that acknowledges challenges but refuses to be deterred by them, and it's about embracing failure as a stepping stone, not as an obstacle overall. So we've been talking about Thierry Henry and the fact that how he's been depressed from a very young age, and how football has managed to football effectively. Let's just analyze that a bit more. And he goes on to say that it's see how you can learn by other people's success and other people's failures, and the fact that what's happened to them in their life. He goes on to say that what kept him going was effectively the affirmations and the accolades he got from playing football. He says if it wasn't for football and he had been forced to do all that and he continued to do all that, it would be difficult to comprehend that he'd still be here.
Yeah, so he's obviously overcome quite a lot in his journey to being successful, and it's obviously been quite a challenging journey for him. But
yeah, well, it goes on to say that this is about succeed or die trying. This is effectively the biggest killer of men under 45 is suicide.
Yeah, which is a scary prospect, but unfortunately the statistics show that is kind of the outcome for a lot of people because of their mindset and how they've got themselves so.
But proportionally between males and females, it runs at 80% compared to 20%. Almost 80% of men under 45. You know, in terms of the whole thing of the suicide, it's 80% is actually men almost.
Men.
It's a big thing, and you know, we have to analyze what it is, and I think it's a lot to do with pride. I think that's why I'm like
And
succeed
the
or die trying.
expectation that put on the shoulders of men. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when I first started, let's talk about when I first started in a state agency. I ran and opened loads of offices.
Yeah.
So I ran and opened Kirkcaldy office, I opened Glenrothes office, I opened Leven office, I opened Cooper office. You know, and basically I opened them all at once, and I had a huge amount of overheads to cover. But I knew at some point in time after the first year of Kirkcaldy that it just wasn't working out. But I was so embarrassed, almost like admitting defeat, that in fact I would have to close an office and actually call it a day in the Kirkcaldy area. And I had never come across that before, where I've had to publicly almost, I saw it as a humiliation in the fact that I'd had to close an office and admit defeat, more or less.
Yeah.
But now, you know, look at Glenrothes. Glenrothes was really surplus to requirements. It was like, look, we've got a good exit for it. We've got it sold to the right person. We can do everything from the other offices as well. So there's no problem about that at all. But the first time round, that took a hell of a toll on me, and mentally, and because it's all about perceived success. How will people look at me now because I've had to close an office? Where it's like now, it's like I couldn't care less. It's like that is that sort of way now. It's like I couldn't care less. It's like I am doing what I'm doing for the benefit of my wealth and the benefit of other people around about me. I'm not doing it for any accolades or what people can see. You know, I don't do this for the affirmation. I don't need anybody to affirm. Yeah, I don't need anybody to give me recognition or affirm that I'm doing things right. It's nice. It tells you must be doing things right, and it's good feedback to get. But I don't dwell in it. This is why somebody said to me when I went to the Esters, and we've had the #1 estate agent in Scotland for the 3 years running. We might get it for the 4th year running as well. And you could get on your high horse and say, yeah, I'm the pinnacle, I'm the best, and I always will be the best. And you could be like that. But the reality is, when it came to being interviewed by Chris Watkin, I actually said, well, it's just another award. It's like, we just do what we do and we'll just move on to the next thing. And he went, whoa, wait a minute. He then went off camera and he went, you have to celebrate this award for the benefit of your staff because they've worked hard for this and you're just more or less writing it off as another award and you're moving on. He says you have to celebrate it for the benefit of your staff and also the benefit for your customers. And the fact that to give them the affirmation that the fact that they bought into you and they must have been right. That's what tells them that you got that award. So now I tend to celebrate things a lot more for these very reasons. So success to me is just a journey, and at some point in time, you'll pop your clogs from this earth, and how successful you'll be will be determined at that point, and in other people's eyes, not in your eyes, because you'll not be here now. So that's probably success. It's a journey. It's not a destination. But I tell you what, I'll knock it out of the park every single day to try and get it, whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult one though, because obviously, quite rightly, success, and if you're recognised for that success, to celebrate it. But it's hard sometimes. You get too wrapped up in that, and then it takes you away takes your focus away from what you're actually doing or what you set out to do. And I think let's maybe talk about success itself. Obviously, success is often seen as like the ultimate goal, and then what is successful? What does it really mean? And to pursue success with like that unwavering determination and things, really look at what success is, because people look at that as the pinnacle, as where they want to be. But who doesn't want to be successful in their life, in their professional life? I think if you ask most people, they would rather succeed or fail. I mean, nobody wants to fail. You would get a really unanimous decision on a succeed side if you were to ask people, because nobody likes to fail and nobody likes to lose, and no one wants to be in last place. Now, we spoke about this, Jim, about first, second, and third, and really, you don't want to be. I mean, ideally, you don't want to be second. You don't want to be third. You want to be first. Do you know, if you're in a race, or if we're talking about the marathon and things as well last week, nobody wants to fail. Nobody wants to lose. And if you're in the running to be first, second, or third, you ideally want to be first.
Yeah. It's interesting. I've just got a warning from TikTok say the subject that we are discussing might be not appropriate for other people because I've got succeed or die trying in the title. See about this
Because of the word die,
sort of thing, yeah?
That's why
it's like let's restrict everything because it's got it in the title. For God's sake, can we not have an open discussion here? Here's a couple of things I know about success. As soon as you trade, it's like the Rocky song, "I the Tiger," and it says it right there. As soon as you trade your passion for glory, that is the beginning of the end.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one as well is you don't actually lose anything at all. You never lose. You just learn. It's either a lesson or a blessing. You never lose at anything. Nothing's ever really a failure. You just learn how not to do it, and you learn how to do it better the next time. That's all it is. Look at Edison. You know, when somebody said, "What's it like to fail at, not producing a light bulb?" And he just said, "Well, over 1,000 times." He says, "Well, I just learned 1,000 times how a light bulb wouldn't work." He says, "But I did it. I did it eventually." So
I didn't realise that it was 1,000 times they tried it before.
Yeah. Henry Ford was another one as well. Henry Ford actually chose, look at a classic example, it's succeed or die trying. Henry Ford, look at Henry Ford. You can have any colour of car as long as it's black, because Henry Ford realised in the production line that the colour black actually dried quicker than any other colour. So he could produce more cars by painting them in black. That's the only reason it did black. For that very reason. And then once they have worked out that they could use dryers and all the rest of it, and heat and temperature and everything like that, to dry every other colour just as quick, that's when they introduced other colours. But black was only a choice not because of anything other than it was quicker to dry in production. And cost effective.
I was just going to say it will be a lot more cost effective, yeah. That's interesting. Angela's put a good comment in there and said the positive of experiencing failure and disappointment, it could raise your awareness that makes you work harder for winning that success. And that's what you were just referring to there. Learning through your mistakes. If you're going to make mistakes and fail at something at some point along the way, use it as a learning experience and an opportunity to better yourself. Definitely. I think we speak about failure and things, but it does take somebody to go beyond their certain limitations and out with their own self-doubt and things as well to be able to do that. And you can't get over the bumps to win at life, and your own life especially. And just have that mindset of no matter what gets thrown at you, you can't win at what you're doing or be successful at what you're doing. You just need to kind of persevere and keep your eye on the end goal of what you've set out to actually achieve.
You'll win every single day. You'll never win any of the shots that you do not take. That's key. Every single day you keep going and you keep plugging away at something and you keep hitting, you keep swinging for that. I've got this image in my mind of a baseball field, and the baseball comes into you and you miss 100% of the swings that you never take. So why would you do that? Why would you not take that swing? It's fear. Sometimes it's fear of failure. Sometimes it's fear of success. Sometimes it's fear of people will judge you if you don't get the desired outcome. And that's the type of things that hold people back. So I say to everybody every single time, and when I'm talking about things, for God's sake, just keep swinging for the fence every single day. And at some point you'll hit a home run, and that'll be great. And the home run will probably outweigh all the times that you never made it. And then everybody will celebrate and go, I knew that was going to work for you. And it's like, wait a minute. You were on the sidelines, basically castigating me, saying that it'll never work, it'll never work, it'll never work. And as soon as it works, you're the first person in the arena going, I knew it'd work for you.
Do you know, I was laughing before you got to that bit because you referenced the fear of success. And I just think it's strange, but very, very true. And I know from personal experience, it's like people, the fear of maybe something being successful or something being maybe something taken off, like if you're trying to do something, but maybe taking off quicker than you expected it to. That is a real thing, and I know that personally as well. When we've spoken about things like that in the past, and it's a strange thing, but it's true.
What happens if I put out 20,000? What happens if I put out 20,000 postcards through the letterboxes and 20,000 people
like
call them all at once for a market
what
appraisal? I'll never be able to cope. And it's like, hey, try putting out 20,000 through a letterbox, and I'll guarantee you only 20 people make a decision in Fife, for example, every single day to buy and sell a house. So you're never going to get in one day, when you put out 20,000 postcards, you'll only get, at the very, very most, you'll only get 20 people. And these 20 people will not choose you all the time. So therefore, you're lucky if you'll get 5.
Yeah, it's a strange one. It's a strange one, but very, very true, I have to say. But yeah, there's many obstacles that will arise to try and make people feel like giving up. But if you do develop the mindset of a made-up mind disposition, so you'll let nothing and no one step and in the way and stop you for what you're trying to achieve and your goals, then you will be a lot more successful, and it's quite important to have that mindset. The battle is won or lost on how you think about yourself, and what you think about yourself and the situation will help you kind of define what your destiny is going to be. So you really have to have that positive mental attitude about who you are and what your abilities are in achieving. You must want to succeed, I think, is the bottom line, and believe that you can.
Well, here's a classic example of it. I could show every single person how to be a millionaire within the next 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll guarantee you, the majority of people will not actually believe they can be, because it's so simple to do.
Yeah.
And it is that simple to do. And I used to talk about I used to talk about this years ago to a lot of landlords. It's like, you buy a certain amount of property, you just make sure all the costs are covered, and made a wee bit of profit to reinvest for the next 10 years, and you've got £1 million of property, and therefore it'll accrue and it'll double in value at that time in the next 10 years. If it took 15 years, so what? You're still better off in 15 years than you were right now. It's like, oh, it took 20 years. Who cares? You're a millionaire in 20 years. Yeah. It's like, did you ever think you were ever going to get it anyway? No. So you're now a millionaire. So who cares if it took you double the amount of time?
Yeah, it's like
that is life.
Yeah.
How many people out there immediately think to themselves, and we were talking about this morning, Ian and I refer to Ian all the time. We should get Ian on this all the time.
One day, yeah. I know.
It's like, we talked about it this morning, and we talked about how many times people actually don't believe they can do it. And then they come up with excuses like, oh, I don't want to pay 40% tax. Why not? That means you're earning enough to pay 40% tax. It's like, I don't want to pay I don't want to pay super tax. It's like, you'd be earning 150 grand if you were on super tax. Why would you bother at that point in time? Yeah. And then you can work out how to be tax efficient overall once you earn that type of money. Or the other one we used to do, I used to teach people in their homes how to make a secondary income outside of what they did. And some people actually sitting in front of me would go, will it affect my benefits? What? Sorry? It's like, I'm trying to teach you to make another £2,000 or £3,000 a month, and you're worried about it'll affect your 500 quid benefits. Yeah. You're having a laugh. You're in the wrong mindset.
I was just going to say, that's when they need to change their mindset. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's about mindset, overall, and anybody could be successful. Anybody could be a millionaire. Anybody could be a multi-millionaire, to be honest. Billionaires a wee bit different. That's got a different level of thinking. Yeah. But once you get to these various stages, it's like anything. Once you climb the hill, you could probably climb a bigger hill next time, and then a bigger hill next time, and the next minute you're on a mountain, and the next minute. And you heard me there at the beginning there when I talked about, now I know this is a muscle problem with my legs, and it's got nothing to do with my knees or any of my joints or anything like that. I'm now got my mind on, can I run the Everest Marathon, which is the 26 mile? And at the back of that, it's like, there is an ultra marathon on Everest at the same time. You just go a wee detour for 6 miles. I even know the map. You got a wee detour for 6 miles on the way down to get the 33 miles in for the ultra marathon on Everest. So that's the so see how I've now planted that seed. Now that seed will be planted. Whether that grows into a tree and flourishes and I harvest and reap the rewards from that tree out of the seed I've just planted is entirely up to me in the way I do things. But I discipline myself to the fact that the only way I'm going to be like that is if I discipline myself every day to do what I'm doing, which is on the spin bike, on the running, on the swimming, on the spin bike, on the running, day rest, spin bike running, day rest, spin bike, swim, run, all these different things, and 5 days a week training in order to get to that stage. And then I'll start upping my mileage in terms of where I'm going. And up in my mileage on my running, up my mileage on my bike as well. And making sure I can get that and building my quads, building my glutes. And I'll need to sort of work on my upper body at some point in time, but it's actually habit stacking that in.
Yeah.
But see how that is. And at the back of my mind, I'm determined I am not going to be behind Richard Branson going up that hill on on Virgin Gordo in November this year. There's no way I'm going to let Richard beat me this time on going up Virgin Gordo in November this year. That's just not going to happen. And that's what's driving me forward to do this, as well as a bit of health.
Yeah, obviously. But I mean, you are really, obviously you're determined. That's what you're determined not to happen next time, Jim. And then obviously you've got this passion for what you do in terms of your physical abilities and things as well. And so it brings us on nicely, because I was about to say let's have a wee talk about determination and passion. And I think it's really important for us to say straight off that if the light isn't focused on a target through the right lens, then it's not going to do anything useful that will help you be successful unless you've got that focus properly and you've got your full energy and ideas and power and unrealized determination really on point and focused on what you want your goal to be. But you need to channel this properly before you can really use it. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot there to be used in each and every one of us. It just needs to be channeled in the right way into what you're trying to do.
This is where you can get distracted. This is where you can get the shiny penny. This is where you can get, I'm looking over there. This looks nice and good. This is where people actually become very, using a stage and saying, letting agents as an analogy, an example. Yeah. This is where people become very successful estate agents working with someone else. And then they automatically get the shiny penny in their head and they get the greed pops in and they think, oh, I could do this better myself and keep all that money to myself.
Yeah.
You've missed the point here. Yeah. You have missed the point completely. And they actually go away and it all goes pear-shaped for them because they don't realize all they're doing being in a stage and with someone else just now is actually just swinging a hammer. Mm-hmm. They're not actually doing the marketing. They're not doing the accounts. They're not doing all the stuff that you need to do, the social media presence. They're not doing the retargeting campaigns. They're not doing the descriptions. They're not doing the photographs. They're not doing, and they think they could do all that, and they don't realize that will make a fun difference. And then at that point in time, I'll make a lot more money. And that's where it's going. I mean, all these people have done that before. They're no longer here. They're no longer actually self-employed estate agents. They're working for someone else, after all that turmoil. And yet today, they would have been, if they'd stayed, they would have been extremely successful. They would be earning a fortune by now.
Yeah, I know.
But they just don't get it. They don't get it. They don't understand. It's like they think I'm here. They don't get it. I'm here to help them achieve that whole thing. I'm here to help them get to that level. I'm here to push them as much as possible. Based on what they've told me, the difficulty is a lot of people tell me what they want rather than what they need.
Yeah.
And because they tell me what they want, I then take that as like, okay, let's go and see if we can get that for you. And then I tell them what they need to do to get there, and I more or less help them as much as possible, and more or less get to the Thierry Henry and his father, and the fact that I take over things and go, no, this is what you need to do, and this is how you need to do it, and this is what you need to do, and you will get that at the end of this. And then the next minute, they're like, oh, it's too much for me. I'm just going somewhere else now. It's like, but this is what you wanted. It's like I'm giving you what you wanted, and you're now telling me that No, you probably didn't really want it. So I'm a creator of dreams for people. In other words, I help people find out what they really want, even though it's what they wanted in the first place.
Yeah, but they didn't realise it.
Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's like we used to have people that came along to the network marketing when I showed them what we called the plan and the business plan and what they need to do to make an extra 2,000 or 3,000 a month, or maybe even a couple of £100 a month extra. And we used to say, this is what you do and this is how you do it. And they used to sit there and go, so, and we talked about the 9 to 5 and everything that happened. And then they used to say to us, it's like, I hate my job. I don't like going into my job. I can't stand it. It's like, I hate my boss and all the rest of it. And after about 3 or 4 weeks with us and helping them build their own business, that almost a sudden were job realizers. They love their job now. They're going to kiss their boss every time they go into work because they've now made them realize their job is easy. It's an easy gig compared to what they're doing on their own. It's a no-brainer. I used to love going working with my dad. When I took I used to have sabbaticals in between an accountant. So now and again, when I moved to a different job, I would have a couple of weeks off. I'd go and work with my dad for a couple of weeks as a window cleaner and an office cleaner. And I love doing that because you didn't need to think about anything. You just need to go in and clean the windows, and you just need to go and clean the offices. And it was almost like a busman's holiday, where you just got to relax. And you had no cares in the world. There was no pressure on you to achieve anything. There was nothing. You just went out and did your job and went home. Job done. There's a lot to be said for that.
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of people do enjoy that and want to just go in and kind of be able to do their job, autopilot, not have to think too much about it, do it, get paid and leave. And that's fine. And a lot of people like that, and that's what they want.
But I think it's ironic of the fact that it takes that in order for people to realise what they really want, what they really, really want. There's a Spice Girls.
Definitely Spice Girls.
I just thought I'd get that in there. We've been talking about the Spice Girls possibly doing the Legend slot at Glastonbury. So that's why we're and Mel B was on stage last year when we were sitting listening to her and talking. She says, "Yeah, we would love to get back together and do Glastonbury for next year." So that possibly might happen as a result.
I heard rumours of that. So
yeah. So I definitely think but that's we're getting a wee bit of track. But this is as I said before, it's about what people need and about what people want. So be careful what you want because you just might get it. That's quite a frightening thing. Could you imagine? I would love to win the lottery. I'd love to win the lottery. I'd want to live in the lottery. And when you win the lottery, it's like, whoa! It's like it's a totally different thing. Yeah, you've now got a problem. You've now got people coming to you and your family expecting stuff from you. You've now got local causes, and I get it anyway. And I don't mind it, but I get it as well. Local causes. I would like, we need this and we need that and we need this, and I think I can't give to everybody. So I now have to say I now have to say no to charity. Sometimes it's like, oh dear, it's like that rips my heart out almost every single time I do that. So you've got to have that. You've got to have that realization. You've got to have that mental toughness, and that mental toughness about that determined and passionate. And being passionate is the determination and the passion that comes out of it, as you said, Richard. But that's also built up from things like reading books and having really great mentors. Interestingly enough, Ian was saying he was in the pub at the Windsor and leaving the other day, and he bumped into a guy, and he was just generally talking to him. And he said, "So, what's your background?" He said, "Well, actually, I've been telling everybody at the back there I'm a plumber." But he says, "I actually run this company called Cybrig or something like that, And he says, I was the managing director and I've just sold it for millions. He says, but I don't think that would resonate very well here. So I'm just telling people that." And he then said, because we were talking about how many millionaires and how many multimillionaires would you get in a pub and leaving? What is the chances of that? How does that happen? He says, funny enough. And that's when we got into that story. It's interesting, when you talk about these stories. And he then said, if there was one thing that you would tell the younger people of today, you get all the cocky attitude and all the rest of it when people come in for interviews, is if there's one thing that you could advise what a younger person today should do when they're pursuing a career or to be anything successful, what would that be? And he actually said, find a mentor in the field that you want to operate. It will mentor you, or you can pay them to mentor you in that field that you want to achieve. That's exactly what I would do. If I was going to tell myself anything earlier on in life, that's exactly what I'd tell myself. That's exactly what I'd tell a young person. Find a mentor far more successful than you in that field, and either see if they'll mentor you, and you'll learn from them, or pay somebody it will give you that knowledge and expertise as well. And I thought, yeah, okay, that's great advice. Because he asked me, and I went, well, I'm not particularly sure. I think it would be, the thing I wouldn't change anything for me. I had to go through all these different things. I had to go through all these different things, Richard. I had to go through all this, torture, the mental toughness, the anguish, the anxiety, and everything like that to break the mold I was currently in. It had been molded from when I was younger. I had to break that mold.
Which is a difficult thing to do.
Yeah, I had to break that thinking. I had to break that programming. I had to reprogram myself for the field I wanted to be successful in, and that took a lot of. That was almost torturous to the point of what we talked about earlier on, and that's I pushed myself to the very, very limits, and almost completely broke myself mentally and physically at some points in time. But for me personally, that had to be my journey. And when people talk, would you tell yourself younger, anything that you should do? I would say I'd keep my mouth completely shut. I wouldn't tell my younger self anything, because my
Just
kids
let
might
it
have not
play
been
out.
born. I might have not met Elaine. I might have different children completely. I watched a program the other day. It was one of the ones, the Love Actually films. It was called the Time Traveler, and the guy Bill Nye was his father. And apparently the boys in the family was the ability to go back in time. If they just stood in a cupboard, clenched their hands together and thought about it, they went back in time. So he actually went back in time, and he stopped his sister from going out with this guy. And then he went back to his normal day, and he had a different child in front of him. His kid was different, and he was like, "Oh my God, I'll have to go back and change that and get my sister to go out with this guy again and change it back so he'd have his right child there." So just that split moment where affecting somebody else's life affected what baby he would have, what child. So instead of a girl, he had a boy. It's like, so he had to go back and change it. So that's why I say to everybody, don't, you'll be surprised. You probably won't want what you really wish for, because if you get it, it could be the death. It could be the death of you. So it's the success and it's the journey. It's probably more important to building up that mental toughness overall to get you to that point where you appreciate what you've got. This is the difference between production and production capability. So what do I mean by that? We talk about this. Covey talks about this. Stephen Covey in 7 Words Secrets and Happiness. Production capability is effectively what you've got assets-wise. It is your capital. In an easy sense, Covey talks about it's the lawnmower. So that's the production capability. It's capable of producing something. It's the golden goose. Right. That's what that is, production capability. But the production is the egg it lays, the lawn it mows, things like that. So that's the production. So you have to look after your production capability, or you'll end up affecting your production. And your production capability is you at this point in time. So you have to make sure you look after you, or your production will go down as a natural result of what you're doing. And this is why it's so important. You've got your determination, you've got your passion, you've got all these things about, I talk about this sometimes as well. We talk about the simple case of, I do this all the time. I used to do this when I went to the pub. Go large or go home. I don't do anything in halves, Richard. I'm a Monte Carlo or bust person. It is go large or go home. So if you're going out to the pub, you're going to knock it out the park at that as well. I was the best at everything. Even that. Even if it's killing me, which it does, believe me, there's nothing, and let me just explain this. I've never drunk for 7 or 8 years, but it was interesting that I heard a lady say this the other day. She says, alcohol has never added any value to my life at all. So why would I consume it if that's the case? All it's ever done is actually shorten my life. So why would it? And we're indoctrinated into that. I was
I was
indoctrinated.
watching a video about that, about how it is indoctrinated into us, and it's passed down through generations that alcohol is associated with occasions and just everything, and it's basically poison. It's ethanol, and we all happily it's crazy.
It's marketed to us like that.
Yeah,
it's like celebrate with a bottle of champagne. You know, and your women love diamonds. Well, Elaine doesn't like diamonds at all, so that's a lot of crap. It's like that's a marketing system. That's a marketing system.
I know
that's designed to do that. That's designed to convince you. And I once heard, and when I stopped drinking, here's what happened to me when I stopped drinking. One of my friends at the time turned around to me and says, "My dad used to say to me, you can't trust a guy that doesn't take a drink."
Really?
Yeah, honestly. If they didn't, there's something wrong if they didn't take a drink. It's like, because the assumption is you must have been an alcoholic at some point in time and had a problem.
Ah, right, okay.
Possibly that's probably what that is. But then you look at that and think, okay, if you've got that addictive type of personality, there must be something ingenious about you, is the fact that you've got to drink the alcohol to curb that enthusiasm, because it's underlying right there. That's what drives people. And some people use the alcohol as a mechanism, as a medication to self-medicate themselves, rather than actually doing running or cycling or anything like that. They just go for a drink to calm down, to take the edge off.
Yeah.
We've all heard
that.
That
comes back to they're channeling their energy in the wrong way, or they're using their, rather than putting it into something like physical exercise or into whatever they do on a daily basis to be more successful. They're trying to dumb it down and just kind of, and then picking up a drink.
How many people right now are tuning into this, actually walk in the door at night and say, "I'll just have a wee glass of wine to take the edge off"?
A lot of people. Well, I don't drink through the week. That's one thing I don't do. It's just something I don't know. But then, if I go out, I don't go out as much anymore. But if I go out, I'm like you. It's like Monte Carlo at bus. So.
That's why you didn't go out anymore. That's why you try not to go out.
That's why I stay in and go. Yeah.
But this is why alcoholics and gamblers and all the rest of it, and smokers, if you want to break that cycle, you have to break all your habits.
Yeah.
You have to stop going to the places you used to go to. You can't go into the pub anymore. You can't go in the betting shop anymore. You can't do all these things. You can't associate with people that were like you anymore in that sort of field, because then it just gets you used to that again. Yeah. So therefore, it's easier for you to relent and actually fall off the wagon. So you just can't. You just have to change all your habits as a natural result. Hence the reason why I'm just a hermit that sits in the house all day. No, I'm not. Didn't take that literally. Don't take that literally, anybody out there. That's just me being That's just me joking, because a lot of people actually think that when it's not like that at all. You know, I'm heavily involved in quite a lot of stuff, and it takes all my time up. And I love doing what I do, but I like doing it better with a clear head.
Yeah.
And understanding, and then being able to actually not being hungover or not having alcohol affect me at all, or anything, smoking or drinking or alcohol or gambling or anything like that. Caffeine. I don't touch all these different things. Yeah, all these different things. I don't buy into that anymore, because they're all stimulants designed to actually activate parts of your body which they shouldn't be activating. You could do that. You could do that naturally. You shouldn't be doing that with. You shouldn't be doing that with stimulant. But people just want to sell you stuff, don't they? Convince you that coffee is really good for your health. You get, and just so happens that study's been commissioned by the coffee producers.
Yeah. The ones that always get me is the adverts for, obviously back in the early 1900s and things, about smoking and how they used to promote it as something that was good. And it's crazy if you look at them. I'm like, God, but then because we know better now.
Sweetheart Stout for kids when you're pregnant. When you're pregnant, have some Sweetheart Stout. At what point was alcohol good for a pregnancy?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Because it's an old wives' tale. It's like, that's what people... Whiskey, if you've got toothache. Whiskey.
Yeah.
It's like, I used to buy it in that because I liked whiskey. Oh, I've got toothache. Aye, but no bottle of whiskey.
Aye, no, you're meant to just...
It's only supposed to be a wee amount. It's like, it's not going away yet. It's not going away. And after half bottle of whiskey later, it's like, I didn't feel it anymore. I'm not surprised.
Well, talking about that's quite good. We're talking about addiction and things here, and obviously drinking and smoking and how people. I mean, it brings us on nicely to overcoming setbacks,
Mhm.
and overcoming setbacks is a really like an integral part of any success story, and how you navigate through the challenges without succumbing to the pressures of potentially failure, which is obviously a lot of people fear. Overcoming setbacks is so important, and they are inevitable, but it's key to view them again, obviously, as an opportunity. Just like failure, if you do fail at something, or if something's setting you back, if you could overcome that and use it to accelerate yourself forward in your journey and
Yeah.
be more successful, then and it helps you grow, then that's really how you should be approaching it. And like we say, alcohol and things like that are some of the big ones up there that hold people back.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely, I would say so. Um, it is, but it's not. It's not. I don't think anybody thinks it holds them back. I think it's actually. I think it's actually a what they call a relaxing. You know, in order
Mm-hmm.
to get them over the fact that they can't overcome the obstacle itself. You know, the setback is probably the integral part of your story, as you've said. It's key, and
Mm-hmm.
there cannot be a victory without a struggle.
Yeah.
You have to understand that. One of my friends got a painting commissioned, and I can't exactly remember what it was like, but it was there cannot be a victory without a struggle underneath it, and it was something to do with the war with Napoleon, and it was the battle at the beginning, and it went through a sort of timeline the way it went through, and then the success at the end, and it showed the battle it undertook, which was the struggle, and in
Yeah.
order to get the success at the end, which was basically the flag, you know, out and everybody celebrating in the fact that they
Mm-hmm.
won. But when I saw the picture, I thought, wow, that's a beautiful picture that was commissioned. But it was entitled, "There cannot be a struggle, there cannot be a victory without a struggle." You cannot. There's nobody out there that's ever been successful at anything without failing at something else first.
Along the way. Yeah.
The failure leads you to the success, and
Yeah.
unless you embrace that failure and understand that failure's giving you a lot more to that, a lot more credence to that journey you're taking, and a lot more understanding to realize that you have to go through that failure. We've done it loads of times. Look at the amount of failures we've had at what we
Yeah.
do, you know, in our business. I mean, let's be honest. There is a lot of failures, but I tell you what, there's more successes,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. And I
and
think
that's what offsets it, and it happens, and it's a trial and error. You know, it's the trial and error with everything. You don't know where it's going to come from, but you just keep going in order to make it happen. Now we've learned, though, it's like, for God's sake, don't just change everything overnight, because
yeah.
most of
Don't
the
you think
time, it's just a waiting game. Most of the
Yeah.
time, your succeed or die trying thing is only just a waiting game, and at some point in time, you'll break through to that ultimate success at the end,
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever that success it is.
It is about, like, obviously, like you say, learning, Jim, and adapting and kind of recalibrating your approach. Like you said about Edison with the light bulb. And he's done it so many times, but you learn all these different ways that a light bulb doesn't work, and adapt his approach until he got it to work.
Look at Tesla.
Mhm.
Look at the G-Wagon or whatever it was at Tesla. That thing that flew over the line the other day, and it was racing a Porsche. And then the next minute you realised it was actually the G-Wagon was pulling a Porsche at the same time, and it still beat the Porsche. But 3 or 4 years ago, he actually launched that G-Wagon or whatever it was, and the window smashed right in front of him in a live launch. The window just smashed, and it made him look a total idiot. You know, it wasn't meant to happen. And look at where Elon Musk is today.
Yeah.
Look at, and I've got to say it, flipping heck, Donald Trump is #1 in the polls for Republican candidate for the
Yeah.
election. Look at everything that's happening to him. You have to take that. You have to take your hat off to that
How he
guy.
does it is
I do not believe in his politics,
no.
but the very fact that this guy he just keeps going. And no matter what he does, he has convinced the people that he is the right person for the
Yeah.
job, no matter what he does. And he's now convinced the whole American public, or the majority of them, to get this a nomination, that whatever he does is just a smear by the other side. to stop him
Yeah.
getting the nomination, or the smear within his party to get the nomination as the Republican candidate. I mean, you've got to think to yourself that there's nothing you need to know about him, but there's everything you can learn from that. That is a definite masterclass in success. You know, how to be successful at anything using the same principles. You don't need to be that whatever he's done, but I'm talking about the principles that he's used and adopted is probably the same principles that Stephen Covey talks about in his 7 Habits of Highly Successful People.
Yeah.
And every other guru has talked about as well.
And if you look at Trump and think about what over the last couple of years, I mean, he's faced jail time, he's been totally discredited. There's lots going on. And
I thought he was out.
But
I thought he was done for. I thought there's no way you're coming back from that. You've got no chance.
And turned it around. And it's that you need to focus on. Obviously, like you say, didn't agree with his political views and all the rest of it. But what he's actually done with his self-image and put across to the people of America, he's obviously doing something right to convince them.
He understands the majority of people at the bottom end of the ladder. Even though he's the billionaire, they think he understands them. And he's got that message across loud and clear that he understands them. He even outs the own people at billionaire level as well for their tax, no tax evasion, but tax planning methods and the fact that they pay no tax. You know, you could see that the classic when he stood there with Hillary Clinton and says, "Well, Hillary, I've paid no tax because I take advantage of exactly the same tax system that you use, and you don't pay any tax either. And in fact, most of your donors don't pay any tax either, because they don't. And if you wanted to really change it, Hillary, you would have changed it. So how are you going to change it? But you'll never change it because your donors don't want you to change it because they're just like me." And it's like he's a man of the people for that reason, because he's like the little guy in the corner. You get them. That's exactly what it is. So he's now, because he has enough money and enough resources, he answers to no one. That is a perfect attitude of succeed or die trying. You would have thought he was out of the game after that first election, done and dusted. You're out. Cry wolf, all the rest of it, and everything that's happened in between. And now he's in the running for it. So you could see that how overcoming setbacks. There's a classic prime example in today's society how overcoming setbacks you can just get on and do it. And if you've got the right marketing and the right tools and the right presence, and you keep out there and keep telling people. It's what we talked about last week, how you're in a classroom and basically you get 100 pupils in a row and you go to the first one and say, "What's 2 + 2?" And they go 4. And you go, "No, it's 5. And then you go to the next one, they go, "What's 2 + 2?" And you go 4. And they go, "No, it's 5. And then you go to the next one, "What's 2 + 2?" And they go, "No, it's 4. No, it's 5. You go to the next one and they go, "What's 2 + 2?" And they go, 5? Congratulations, Peter. You're absolutely right. And then they go to the next one and they go, "What's 2 + 2?" And the next one goes, "Oh, it's 5. Oh, congratulations, John." And they go to the next one, "Oh, Jenny, what 2 + 2? Oh, it's 5. And then the next one, everybody else falls in line. That's exactly what Donald Trump has done. He's managed to convince everybody 2 + 2 now equals 5. The paradigm shift has taken place and in people's minds and how people think. And he's managed to convince everybody it's his way and it's his way of thinking. That is overcoming setbacks.
Yeah, that's a prime example of how failure is not the end. It's just another chapter in the larger narrative of your success story.
You also have that attitude of no excuses. You've got to have, there's no excuses. It's like, for example, I will have to run the day. There is no excuse. I will have to run and I'll have to do 5 miles at least, but I'm wanting to do 10K because I'm nearly there anyway. And I was able to do 5 miles, no bother. So I will go out and do 10K more than likely for that reason, because you can't have an excuse. Because an excuse is defined as a reason that someone gives to explain why something has not been done or will not be done. That's all an excuse is.
Yeah.
You can give you. I mean, I've said it to you sometimes, Richard. It's like, is that number 57? And it's like, what? It's like, is that number 57 on my list of excuses I've got that you're telling me?
Yeah, that's right. And I think in order to be successful and really achieve what you're out to achieve, you can't be that person who's full of excuses. And there may be people that maybe many things let them it stops them in their tracks and they make excuses and things, but you can't be that person. You're only kidding yourself, and that's I think is the most important part, because you'll see these things that justify why something's not been done or why you've not actually done something, and to justify it to yourself and try and justify it to other people, but ultimately you're kidding yourself, and that's
it's quite interesting throughout life, Richard. I have actually come across a lot of people who have actually used their children as the excuse as to why they're not going to be successful. It's why they don't want to reach to these meteoric heights, because they don't want to put the effort in because of their children. Whereas I went, yeah, it's exactly. I have used it because of my children as the reason to do it. It depends how you want to look at it. Some people will use their children as an excuse. Some people will use their children as the reason. And that's all it is. It's how you think as a person and what your long-term prospects is. I don't, children, I know fine, and I was lucky. My mentors taught me in the beginning that you lead by example. Your children will do exactly what you do, and more than likely, and you could teach them as well at the same time. But they're more likely going to do what you do or be you're sort of successful as what you do as well. Whereas if you don't do that, and they will learn exactly what you don't do as well. So if you're down the pub necking it down every night or every weekend, or if you're having a glass of wine every single time, guess what your children are going to do when they come in from work, when they start working?
Yeah.
They'll think that's normal. They'll think that's exactly normal. Now, for some people out there, they'll be crying wolf right now, and they'll be going to me, but that is normal. What's wrong with that sort of life? And it's like, hey,
if that's what you want to do,
I've got no qualms about what you want to do. You're obviously watching the wrong show. For one, you're listening to the wrong podcast if that's the case, because you shouldn't be here then. Because this is about people that actually want to move forward, want to create some sort of wealth in their life, and want to learn from other people in order to achieve that. Now, I'm not saying it's learning from me. This is a catalyst, because a lot of this information we learn. Well, all this information is acquired and learned from other people. I'm a combination of Richard Branson, Tony Robbins, Jason Vale, other people as well. I'm a combination of all these different people because I've learned from these different people. Ben and Janet D'Souza, Dave and Denise Butler, Pat and Greta Gregory. Most of these people you will not know. Jerry and Mandy Scriven. These are all people that used to run International Business Systems, which was a mentoring system I was actually incorporated and inducted into, which was a cult. They're just trying to make you successful. That's what everybody used to say. They're just trying to make. It's a cult, and it's like flipping heck. I'll be in a cult as long as you want, as if you're going to make me a millionaire.
It's interesting what you said there about. Obviously, we're talking about no excuses, and you talk about people using their children and things as an excuse. And I made a wee notes at the side on this one because it made me think. And some people really, there's certain negative events in their lives and things that have occurred, and they allow that unfortunate circumstance to be the reason why they can't move forward. And do you know the first thing that come into my mind, and I've seen it happen before, and the unfortunate circumstances that somebody loses somebody or somebody dies for whatever reason, and they use I'm not saying they use it as an excuse, but they do, but they coil right inside themselves and just refuse to move forward, and instead of using it as a mechanism to obviously propel themselves forward and use that negative energy from losing somebody in a positive way, they totally to the detriment of themselves and their own success. It just ruins somebody, and it's a hard thing to watch, but I've seen it happen to people.
Yeah, I've had that person. I know people like that close to me now, who have lost their husband or lost their wife, who I know who have actually let that hold them back for the rest of their life.
Yeah,
and I'll be honest, they've become extremely bitter and twisted as a result of it. Because they've allowed it to happen and allowed it to affect them, and they've now realised. It's like flipping heck. I've just wasted
all these years,
these opportunities I had. This could have been a completely different life for me.
And the ironic thing is, the person that they lost probably wouldn't have wanted them to do that.
Would never have wanted that. They would never. And I know in this instance, I know one of them. and he would never have wanted that. He would never have wanted that for her. But unfortunately, she let her hold it back herself all her life, and
Yeah.
as a result, it became bitter. And this is why you've got to understand. This is why you've got to understand someone else so you could be understood. In other words, what is your journey? What's happened to you in your life? Not what's wrong with you. What's happened to you? It's caused you to be like this. It's not them. It's what's happened to them. It's the action rather than the person. And that's why, when you the classic example is when you chastise a child, you chastise them for the action, not not the person, not you have done a bad thing. That's you shouldn't be doing that. Not you shouldn't do that. That's so it's a slight difference.
Slight difference.
Some children don't understand it early on, because I could never understand things like that. I was like, what? I have no idea what you're talking about. It's like it took me years to understand. It's the action you chastise, not the person.
Yeah.
So that's key. And so these excuses that people throw in front of themselves are just early mirrors that they've adopted and learned out of the people they've interacted with over the years.
Yeah.
And we all have our hand to play, and we all have our cards that we've been dealt, and you just have to play it to the best of your ability, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think ditch the excuses, and that does really mean you have to be willing to, dig a grave and bury all and every hindering fact or lie coming in front of you that will deny you access to your own success.
We actually did that one time. I remember, I think it was Bernie D'Souza did that at his house. He dug a wee shallow grave in the backyard, and he asked us to write down all our excuses on a bit of paper. And then he said, right, okay, throw them in there and let's bury them. Let's not have these excuses anymore. And I thought, that's a really good analogy. Like to just close it off.
Physically do it.
Yeah, and actually say, right, no excuses. Physically do it. Go just take that excuse, write it down, the excuse that you used to give yourself all the time, and actually just go out in the back garden, dig a wee hole with a trowel, put it in, and bury it. And tell them you're never going to use that excuse ever again.
Yeah, it's probably a good exercise that a lot of people could practice.
We could all do that. Because I'm sure we'll all do excuses every now and again. Even myself. We'll still do it. Some sort of excuse in some shape or form. Just that I have different excuses from other people.
Yeah. And I stuck a wee quote in there, let the dead bury the dead. I believe that was Jesus that said that.
Was it? Well,
that's what it told me online when I checked it anyway. But yeah, let's finish up about talking about being or not being average, or don't be average. And I think it may seem easier just to be average, and why not? People might think, well, why not? Why can I not be average? And that's fine. Like we said, if people want to be and operate in a certain way, then that's their choice. Everyone else is doing things to barely get by, or at least look as if they're doing more when they are doing actually less. Do you know what I mean? So people might, and it's all this thing about being looking busy, and you're actually not doing things just to look busy, but you're actually not, and it's not productive. So you need to really step outside the box and not be that average person if you really want to be successful. And I think it's fair to say that not everybody is born to fit in. And if you are already taking steps to not just be average, then you're a step closer to being part of that 5% club. And I think even watching and joining in today, or taking part in things like what we talk about on a daily basis, obviously what we do in the Wealth Creation Show, if you're interacting and networking with people and learning from people, then you're already taking those steps to be above average and closer to being part of that 5% group.
You can never be average and be successful. Let me say that again. You can never be average and be successful. Why can you never be average and be successful? For the very definition, average is middle. It is 50-50 in between. So if you're in the middle, which is average every single time, you will never be successful, because someone else is a way beyond you higher. So they've got more success in that field. So you can't be successful by definition if you want to remain average.
Yeah.
So you have to step out of your comfort zone. You have to do something different. You have to be uncomfortable. You cannot remain average and be uncomfortable. It's not possible. Because by definition, average is comfortable. It's your comfort zone. It's just like you're getting by. You know, you're just like, oh, we've got our holiday planned, we've got that planned, we've got this planned. Your whole life's planned out in front of you. There's no different. There's no change. There's no spontaneity. There's no growth in your life anymore. You're just going to play out the rest of your life as you are. I'll guarantee you, you'll be divorcing if you've got a partner at this point in time in the years to come, because you need to grow in order to feel your self-affirmation.
Yeah.
As human beings, we want to be affirmed. We like to have belief in ourselves, and we want affirmed. We also want, the need to be loved is really, really big. That's what result of where you are. It's that affirmation that everybody's after. The need to be loved is the overall driver for everything. This is why people go and do things that are really toxic towards their relationships, because they do it with the need to be loved. I know people that have actually gone and had, you know, and I'm going to say it, they've had sex with strangers because their partner wanted them to do that. And they didn't want to do it because they wanted them to love them, and they felt that would they love them. And it's like, what? I mean, some people out there maybe have done that. It's like, and I said, I would call a stop to it. And luckily enough, they said, no, I'm not doing that anymore. I don't care what it is. I'm not doing that anymore. Now, when people ask me, it's like, you just mentor people in business. It's like, no, I don't. No. I mentor people in life itself. But, you know, that's an analogy. That's one of the things that have actually, you know, happened in the past, that I've actually sat down with somebody and actually discussed with them and worked it through and seen a plan out to the end with them. But that's the sort of things that can happen, because the need, the overriding desire to be loved by someone else, it's close to you, you'll do anything for them as a natural result. This is why people stay with people that beat them up. Is to beat them senseless, but he loves me. And I hate to say it's he, but it usually is. But he loves me.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, but he loves me. It's like he's beaten 7 different colours out of you. But what else will I do? I've no got, and this feeling of self-worth for that person, that other person, that other partner in that relationship, the feeling of self-worth, they've got no self-worth at all, no self-esteem at all. They don't know what to do next. So they just, that's their life. They don't know how to get out of that. That's why you have all these refuge and help groups and all the rest of it, and support groups to get people out of this self-fulfilling prophecy. But that's why a lot of people stay with them. That's why people take drugs. That's why people drink alcohol, because there's a need to be with other people and affirmed by other people. And that overall riding factor is under that umbrella of the need to be loved, which drives every single decision in people's lives.
Yeah, I think it's
important. I'll defy anybody to tell me different.
Yeah, I think it's important to realise that in order to be successful and whatever you want to do, you need to look at your own life first. How happy you are, or how content you are, should I say, and your own physical and mental state as well. Because if that's not right, then you're never going to be successful, because all those things are going to hold you back.
Look at how that would hold you back, and the fact that your beliefs are not aligning with what you're doing.
Yeah, it's a total contradiction of what you're trying to do.
And that's one of the overriding things. That's why you can be extremely successful if your beliefs are in alignment with what your passion and what your desire is, and the direction that you're going. When it's not in alignment, it's the time to change. And we have people like that. You know, not everybody stays with us all these years as an estate agent, because, you know, they don't align. They don't align anymore with what we're doing. They don't, you know, I mean, what do you mean you don't align? It's like you're giving to charity and local causes and all the rest of it. But it's just they've got bigger priorities now, because there's other more important priorities in their life. So therefore, they move on as a natural result of that. Sometimes some of them come back.
Yeah.
We had one went away to Glasgow. Yeah. Because they had to, because it was all about love. And then subsequently came back.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you know, that's what happens, and you know, why should they not do that?
Yeah, of course.
I would say, take a chance in life. You know, just go for it. go on that sabbatical, go on that year. And when Tony says, I'm an accountant, I've got a place in Anderson Brown in Aberdeen, one of the top accountancy firms in the oil industry, it's like, wow, this is prestigious. I was talking to somebody at Drummoyg, actually. I was selling their house, and he's an accountant, and he said, I know the partner that actually owns Anderson Brown, the Anderson of the Anderson Brown. He says, I tell you what, it is the pinnacle of accountancy firms in Aberdeen in the oil industry itself. Says to get in a place in there is absolutely a top drawer, to coin a phrase out of one of Stagen's book. You maybe know who that person is.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's top drawer. I could hear him saying it, actually. So, and then Tony said to me, it's like, no, I'm going away to Jacob Ridge to volunteer for a year as a volunteer on an animal sanctuary. And it's like, flipping heck, I have never seen, we've never had anybody in the family and all the generations that have run away at the circus. Because that's effectively what it is.
Then, like you say, it's why should you not? And if it's something that you feel passionate about and things, and I think it all falls into, well, not being average. It's all about taking advantage and making the most of any and possibly all opportunities that fall your way and help you become successful. I mean, it doesn't always need to be academically. It could be, do you know?
No, it doesn't.
No, it could be.
That's where a lot of people get misaligned.
Yeah.
They think the pursuit of money is the ultimate goal, but money's only a scorecard.
Yes.
It's not the ultimate goal. And if anybody can tell me what that ultimate goal is, I would be interested to hear what you think that ultimate goal is in life. It's not money. It's definitely not money.
That's a good question.
I could demonstrate that to you.
That's a good question to put out there, and if anybody has views on that, please jump into the comments, even if it's
definitely not happiness.
No.
Because happiness will never be attained every single day. If your pursuit in life is completely about happiness, and it's always about happiness every single time, well, you could be on the dole for the rest of your life and be perfectly happy. But I tell you what, you'll not be living on much, and your lifestyle won't be great, but you'll be happy.
Yeah.
The ultimate goal in life, I don't know. There's a few things: being content, happiness. I mean, being content's a really good one.
Yeah, content.
Because do you know? And I talk about this a lot. And maybe Matthew's maybe saying that because he maybe knows me well about this. If your ultimate goal in life is to be content with who you are and comfortable with who you are, then as a natural byproduct of being content with who you are, you will be happy.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in that. Definitely.
Whereas if you try to be happy all the time, you will never attain that. That is not possible. You've not got a person. I'm laughing. Every single day I'm happy. That's not sustainable. You will burn yourself out because the amount of endorphins you need to keep producing within your system to have that happiness, and also the amount of serotonin you burn through every single day, is literally, you'll have nothing left. You will be a chronic depressant if you keep trying to do that. So the ultimate goal, in my opinion, is possibly not that. It's being content overall. In terms of who you are, where you're going, what you're doing, and how you're helping other people. The ultimate goal, in my opinion, just my opinion, is to be content and serve other people.
Yeah.
That's effectively what I'm here for. I am here on this planet. I have convinced myself I'm here on this planet after all these years of thinking about it to actually serve other people and help other people on their journey in life, and actually to higher than what I've achieved.
Yeah.
And that includes my children. That includes anybody that interacts with me at all. And some people will be with you for that journey, and some people won't be with you, just like a rocket takes off and the fuel burners fall off. That's the people that don't want to go any further. Fuel burners drop off and you still keep going. And then ultimately another burner drops off. That people get, that sort of thing. Till you get to ultimate destination, which is death.
And on that note,
that'll be the end then.
No, I think I totally agree in the contentment side of things, as opposed to trying to strive for happiness every day. You couldn't even be a quite an exhausting thing to try and do that. Gary's agreeing there in the comments. Content is my opinion as well. But hopefully, succeed or die trying. What we've covered today has been helpful to people. Obviously, determination, passion, overcoming your setbacks and your failures and using them as opportunity to obviously further succeed. Don't use excuses. Try and obviously not use excuses for why you're not doing something, because you're only kidding yourself. And really strive just to not be that average person, because average people generally aren't successful. And I think that's
there's a good show for next week. Don't kid yourself.
Don't kid yourself. Yeah.
Honestly, don't kid yourself. You know, this is we can go into and talk about. I could talk about this for ages, and the fact that how people convince themselves by cheating.
Yeah.
It's like they're I've won, but you've cheated. You're kidding yourself. You've not won. You've just cheated. You've not learned anything. You've not done the time that everybody else did. All you've done is you've just cheated to get to that accolade or whatever it is you've got.
Yeah.
You know, so just don't kid yourself.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's another story.
That probably will be another show. I'll keep a note of that one, Jim. So.
At least I'll not get downgraded on TikTok for don't kid yourself.
Yeah, that title will be fine. Right, okay, that was good. Thanks for that, Jim. Thanks for everybody for joining in. If you're watching the rerun, you could still comment and things. We will pick them up, and we'll see you all next week, 12:30 as usual.
Perfect. Bye bye for now, and we'll catch up with the TikTok lot then.